85,000, with domestic sales down 31%, exports up 2%. This was a marginal improvement in exports after almost 13 months of a slowdown. In Q1, revenue from operations was a record 10,310 crores, up 29% year-on-year, and highest quarterly EBITDA of rupees 1,954 crores, a growth of 51% year-on-year. In July, the company launched two new premium bikes in collaboration with Triumph, the Street 400 and Scrambler 400X. How are the Triumph bikes adding to Bajaj Auto's sales volumes? What next on the company's premiumization journey? And what is the EV and alternate fuel roadmap really looking at? Also, how is the company gearing up for competition from Ola, TVS and Ather in electric vehicles? Joining us to talk about this all is Rajiv Bajaj, MD of Bajaj Auto. Rajiv, I'd like to begin by asking you, how do sales in domestic market look currently? What about the festive season? Domestic sales have also been under stress because of the entry-level segment.
Hi Parikshit, good afternoon. By domestic, I suppose you mean motorcycles. So let me give you a brief commentary on that. The entry segment, which is the 100cc motorcycle, this continues to be under pressure for the industry as a whole. For Bajaj, as you know, this is not a major area of focus. So in that sense, it's not a priority for us. The mid-market, which we define as kind of 125 to 200cc, typically a ex-showroom price of 80,000 to about 1.7 lakhs of rupees. This is what is growing very strongly in recent times. And this is where our focus has been, particularly with our brand Pulsar. I would say we have done rather well here with our product and marketing initiatives. Our market share has climbed steadily over the months to now, around the 30% mark. We are the number 2 player, very close to the number 1 in this mid segment. And as you can imagine, this has been positive not just for our growth, but also for our EBITDA. So that's one of the reasons why you could reel off some of those numbers on EBITDA, etc. So this will continue to be a very strong area of focus in the near term. And finally, there is the premium segment. We classify that as being motorcycles above 1.7 lakhs of rupees. That is witnessing positive growth. So that's not negative like the entry segment, but not as big or as strong as the mid segment. And whereas, we have some brands like the Pulsar RS, the Dominar, KTM, Husqvarna, and now Triumph, and I would say we are doing very well there, especially with the introduction of the Triumphs.
Right. In terms of entry-level buyers, do you think the market will start looking up with this festive season and beyond?
It's impossible to forecast. There are so many comments on this, on both sides, for and against. But my own sense is that beyond looking at it quantitatively, one needs to look at this segment qualitatively. This is the segment of people at the bottom of the pyramid that have undoubtedly faced the biggest impact of COVID and the consequent actions associated with COVID. And both in terms of real job losses and in terms of sentiment driven primarily, I would say, by petrol prices, this consumer is not coming back like the mid-segment consumer is or the cars consumer is. At the same time, we must also acknowledge that probably this is the consumer that is looking at EVs. So every time somebody buys an electric scooter, and there are almost 60,000-70,000 of them being sold in terms of the high-speed vehicles and perhaps many more in terms of the low-speed vehicles, those are not coming only at the expense of the ICE scooters. That is also coming, I'm sure, at the expense of the ICE motorcycle. So personally, I really don't think this consumer is going to come back in the near future, certainly not in this festive season, to where it was pre-COVID. And I think that if, we have to make headway here, we need to do more than just hope for the consumer to rebound. We need some disruptive action in this space.
Right. So that's important. You don't see the entry-level consumer returning, at least in this festive season. But you had promised something special this year for Pulsar fans. In our last interview, you had said that Bajaj Auto will be paying homage to the Pulsar. Could you give us a sense of what to expect and when?
Sure. I would first like to start by saying that since we spoke in the last 2, 3 months, we have the new NS160 and NS200 there. We also have, in fact, this month we launched a new Pulsar, the N150, which we are very hopeful of. That it will bring us some great results in this festive season. We've got the timing right. We think we have the product and the price right. And between now and the end of the financial year, over the next 6 months, we would introduce six significant upgrades or new pulsars, all aimed, quite frankly, at further enhancing our share in this mid segment from 30% to, as much as it can rise. We would certainly like to vie for the number one spot in this position. And I can say that in terms of the question you asked, the direct answer would be this, that for all the Pulsar fans out there, we have plans to launch the biggest Pulsar ever. So currently the biggest Pulsar is a 250cc, the N250 and F250. But we want to launch in this financial year the biggest Pulsar ever. We think we have a fantastic product to offer them, and we want to do it within this financial year so that the full benefit of that in terms of growth and profitability is available to us next year.
Right. So significantly, you said 6 new upgrades to the Pulsar, and one motorcycle will be the biggest ever platform that Pulsar has ever had. Is that right, Mr. Bajaj?
That is correct. So it's a total of 7, 6 plus the big one.
All right, 6 upgraded motorcycles and 1 big one. Could you give us a sense of the kind of engine capacity you'd like to play with there?
No, it's a little early for that.
Okay.
Maybe the next time we speak.
All right. Also, what next on the premiumization journey?
Well, Parikshit, premiumization is now a way of life for all of us. In the 125cc, for example, the reason we've had so much success is because with the various Pulsars we've offered, consumers have responded very favorably to quickly put us in a number 2 position, with our 125cc volumes being around 60,000 a month. Similarly, we just spoke about the 150 to 200 space, where again the Pulsars are doing a great job for us in the marketplace. But the most important action for us, and we talked about this the last time we met in July, is going to be premiumization in the premium space. Which, as I referred to earlier, is the 1.7 lakhs plus segment, where, excuse me, so far we've been clocking volumes of about 8,000 a month between the, between the Pulsar, Dominar, KTM and Husqvarna's, and we have about 8% market share. So over there, with these 2 major interventions, on the Pulsar with the big one, which will obviously be priced in that segment, and with the Triumphs, not only with the Triumph Speed 400, which we are currently making and selling, but as you know, from October, we have the new Scrambler 400, and then the exports of Triumph will also kick in from October. So all this put together, we are readying capacity for doubling our domestic volume from the present 8,000 a month to somewhere between 15 and 20,000 a month, so that we can be a strong number 2 player in this segment in the domestic market. Of course, Enfield with about 70% share currently is the number 1. And in terms of exports, we think we will be by far the number 1 player, because currently our exports between the Bajaj brands and the KTM brands is about 10,000 a month. And with the new Pulsar and the new Triumphs, we think we will again take exports to 15, 20,000 a month. So all put together in the premium segment, domestic plus exports, we are looking at about 35,000 motorcycles a month, a rate we would like to achieve by the end of this financial year.
All right. In terms of the number of bookings received for Triumph, how many have you received as yet, and how many delivered so far?
Okay. So, as you know, for the first 10,000 bookings, we had a special price of 2.23 lakhs. At some point of time, perhaps 4-6 weeks ago, bookings exceeded 20,000 units. I frankly don't know where they stand today, but I do know we have switched to the new price. And in terms of production and deliveries in July, I think we build about 500 vehicles in, or maybe a few more. In August, it was a little more than 3,000. So I would say between July and August, it would be about 4,000. I would imagine about half of that has been delivered to customers. The rest is either, just undergoing final checks at dealerships or on their way in trucks to dealerships. In terms of this month, we are targeting to achieve something like 4,500. Quite frankly, we are limited by capacity right now, or I should say by production actually, of certain parts. And in the near term, our goal is that in the month of January, as I said, on the back of these three elements, the current Speed 400, the new Scrambler, and exports, we should be around the 10,000 mark. And that's a very nice place to be in this segment. It's very profitable, and particularly exports at 3,000 a month, and with the rupee at 83 is not a bad thing at all.
Right. I would like to ask you about your electric vehicle strategy now. TVS has launched a premium scooter at 2.49 lakhs. Ather has launched a scooter at 1.3. Ola has launched the S1 Air at 1,10,000. What do you think about these pricing strategies now?
Well, clearly the TVS price, by their own admission, is a price that makes the product very niche, especially in the domestic market. But of course, it's a great demonstration of their capability and their commitment. But I heard them to say that their volume expectations are quite muted with this in the domestic market. I don't remember the number. As far as the Ola and Ather prices are concerned, and our price is actually very similar to the Ather price, I think that is where the market is. That is where the TVS iQube is. And my sense is that this is a price which we will have to make a big effort to make sustainable. At least I can say that for Bajaj, it is still not a price which is very profitable. And when FAME goes away next year, we are all going to struggle to hold this price. But this is the price at which consumers are, willing to look at the e-scooter the EV scooter as an alternative to e-scooters and motorcycles. At a much higher price than this, the interest fades away, and that is evident from the fact that even currently, all said and done, the penetration is in low single digits. I don't know about cars. I think it is like 2% or something. And even for two-wheelers, I don't think it is much more than 4-5%.
Right. Also to ask you about the Chetak, there have been supply chain issues with the Chetak scooter. Approximately 7,000 units of Chetak were produced in August. How much would you like to take it to? What about exports of Chetaks? And are there new Chetak scooters in the pipeline?
Okay. So there is a kind of small picture answer and a big picture answer. The small picture answer is that yes, we did. I think we dispatched 8,000 vehicles after producing 7,000 in August. Hopefully this month we can do better than that. If we can do 10,000, that would be nice to build up towards the festive season. And certainly our own plan is to exit this financial year at something closer to 15 to 20,000. So we are putting capacity in place for that, not just at our end, but throughout the supply chain. And we do have something on the product front also after the festive season to stimulate further demand, towards that goal of 15, 20,000. So that would be the answer, the small picture answer. In terms of the big picture, I think the way we are looking at it now and kind of carving out our plans for the future is this, that we are no longer just comparing Chetak volumes with those of its very obvious and immediate competitors. We have to look at the entire market of scooters, which is say about 500,000 a month, and also the entry-level motorcycles, like we talked about the 100cc motorcycle, which is also close to that number. So we are talking about 1 million people out there every month who should be looking at EVs for all that EVs have to offer. And this is not even counting The people who are buying today the low-speed vehicles that fly at under 25 kilometers an hour. So, as a OEM that wants to be relevant to the EV future, one would target typically, if not 20%, at least 10%. As a minimum critical mass to be kind of competitive and in the reckoning in this segment. So this means that we now need to think not of 10,000 a month and 20,000 a month, but between Chetak and our partner company Yulu, we need to think about 100,000 a month. And this is what is on our mind right now. So that's the big picture answer.
Okay, by when do you want to take that capacity to 100,000 a month? And the reason why I ask is because you are facing stiff competition from Ola and TVS, both their sales are in the range of 15 to 18,000 currently. By when do you think you can reach this mark, cross it, and also speak about the 100,000 electric vehicle capacity mark that you're talking about?
Well, so let me answer that in two parts. As far as our own sales vis-a-vis competition is concerned, of course, Ather and TVS have done a fabulous job. There's no taking away from that. Chetak, unfortunately, was always a little higher priced. It was the most expensive of the four in the marketplace. We have been able to get the cost structure right of late, and that is why you see the surge in our volumes. Also, we have chosen the route of not putting the Chetak into our existing Bajaj motorcycle dealerships, but rather into Chetak dealerships, wherever that was not immediately possible, we have gone through the higher end KTM dealerships, wherever it made sense. It's not like in all 500 KTM dealerships you can find a Chetak. So distribution has also been a little slow, but now obviously with this interesting Chetak, after the price has been corrected, distribution is really being ramped up very significantly in these months. So I have no doubt that between what we've done on price and distribution, Chetak will continue to grow every month. As far as the question on 100,000 is concerned, this is something that as a team, we have to get our minds around. We obviously need, first and foremost, product solutions for that. It can't just be a pipe dream. Our current capacity is about 40,000 a month between the Chetak and Yulu. And I would like to believe that for the next financial year, that is FY25 budget, when we present this to the board in March, we should have a plan in place to take the capacity to somewhere well above 40 and towards 100,000 a month.
All right, so you have given us a roadmap there. I'd like to ask you about your electric three-wheeler plans also. There was an electric three-wheeler launch slotted this year. Is it on the cards? When is it expected? And will it be open for exports immediately?
Exports immediately, no, maybe very selectively where there are specific opportunities, such as perhaps in Sri Lanka, for example. But basically the focus is the domestic market, and we already introduced our product, starting with the city of Agra in the month of May. And I'm very happy to say that, I think we did the right thing by waiting to get the product absolutely right, especially in terms of range, because that is so important, obviously, to a three-wheeler operator. And I believe in 2 or 3 months after launch, we are a market leader in that market with something like sales of 300 to 400 e-autos every month, and a market share, I believe, in excess of 50%. The last I heard of that. Since then, we have expanded to some other cities, and we are, obviously going to roll this out first in cities that are ICE restricted. So we are not like going pan-India right now. Currently, if you look at what we did last month, it's closer to 1,500 e-three-wheelers between the e-auto and the e-cargo vehicle. And I'm told by Rakesh, and I believe he shared this on CNBC the last time he was there, perhaps he did, that our near-term goal, by which I mean, again, within this financial year, is to clearly be the market leader in this, as we are overwhelmingly with ICE vehicles. I cannot but mention that in the month of August, the team has done a great job of selling 50,000 three-wheelers in the domestic market, obviously most of them ICE, barring these 1,500. And we are hoping to match, if not exceed that this month, which is again excellent for our financial performance. And coming back to the E3-wheeler, this would mean that towards the end of this financial year, we have to get closer to 3.5, 4,000 vehicles a month, and then plan again for the next year to take it to the next level.
All right. Speaking about exports, two-wheeler exports have been under stress for the past many months for Bajaj Auto. Do you see them finally turning a corner now?
They have turned around, Parikshit, especially the motorcycles, and the three-wheelers are beginning to as well. As you know, typically Bajaj Auto exported about 200,000 vehicles a month before export markets have run into the problems that they have. We fell to a low of around 110,000, maybe for a couple of months. Since then, you have seen that in this quarter, we have come up to about 140, 145,000. And again, as Rakesh had indicated, 150,000 plus was on the horizon. Sitting here today, I would like to believe that is a number that we can achieve in October. But I have to say that with the uncertainty still persisting in terms of forex availability, one can never be sure. But we are very, very hopeful that in the next quarter we will do better than what we have done in this quarter, which I believe is somewhere around 140,000 a month. So it has very much turned around, and slowly and steadily we are gaining ground again over there. Of course, we never really lost market share, so that's not a concern. But volumes are building up. But in the meantime, the rupee at 83 is certainly giving us comfort.
All right. On a lighter note, while you're working on your business with multiple pillars, of which EVs and alternate fuels are a part, there are some who are talking about ending Ice Age. In fact, referring to your 2-year-old comment that champions eat oats for breakfast, Bhavish Agarwal recently replied and said that he puts ice cubes in his drinks. How would you respond to that?
Well, Parikshit, you would remember when we met for the Triumph launch, I was asked a similar question that on 5th of July. I said even then, that it is the consumer who gives us the license to make something or takes away the license. It is not Rajiv Bajaj or Bhavish Agarwal or anyone else in industry or government. So this is what I firmly believe. As for oats, it's funny. It's something I said 2 years back, and it's still hanging in the air. I must say this. I met Bhavish once. I like his energy very much. So I have positive feelings for him. But I would say this, that sometimes if you don't sound too good, maybe you have a bad throat from taking on too much ice. So be careful how much ice you take on at one time.
All right. And my final question would be about alternate fuel vehicles, Mr. Bajaj. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari, in a way, nudged the industry and rather strongly at the automotive convention, the SIAM convention, to phase out diesel. He warned that the government could impose higher taxes, and then he said that there is no plan as such, but it was just a nudge in that direction towards moving towards alternate fuels. How is Bajaj Auto embracing alternate fuels? You had been working on a portfolio. There were prototypes being worked upon. Is there something ready that you could unveil in the near future?
So I was not there at the convention, but I did read about this. He spoke about diesel, as I understand, and diesel, as you know, is not a big part of Bajaj Auto. We don't make any diesel two-wheelers. And in our three-wheeler portfolio, say the 50,000 vehicles that I referred to that we made in August, I would think fewer than 10% would be diesel. I would like to say that what Mr. Gadkari said has sparked a very interesting thought in our minds, because he talked about clean fuels. He referred to CNG, he referred to LNG. I would present this data to you that today 70% of the three-wheelers that we make for the domestic market are CNG. And this was not the case just 2 or 3 or 4 years back. And since we are 80% of the domestic market, this means more than half the three-wheelers being sold in India today as an industry are CNG. Now, I don't know what it is for cars and buses, But with all the communication I see from OEMs like Maruti and Tata in recent months, I get the sense that CNG is becoming really popular there as well. And I would also share one more insight with you that somebody very senior in government pointed out to me that they believe that one of the reasons why E3-wheelers are not more popular than they are currently is because the CNG three-wheeler is very, very competitive. So I would actually really plug for a strong push on CNG because the government is anyway doing a great job of rapidly expanding the CNG network. And if I may say so, I placed this before the FM and her team during the pre-budget discussion for the previous budget that if CNG GST could be brought to something like 18%, let's say, for petrol, diesel, it's 28%, for EVs, it's 5%. If it could be brought to something like 18%, that would really help because the CNG system cost, as a percentage of a car cost may be very small, but as a percentage of a motorcycle's cost or a scooter's cost is very large. So the very inspiring idea that was sparked in my mind after what Mr. Gadkari said was this, that, why aren't there any CNG scooters and motorcycles? It would be great for consumers because it would cut their running costs by half. So it's like petrol becoming effectively 55 rupees a liter. There would be no concerns about safety, charging range, battery life, etc. Great for the manufacturer and great for the government because you make 18% GST. So I would say that we talked in the beginning about some disruptive action to get the entry-level consumer going again. I think this would really galvanize them if the government would consider some concession on CNG in terms of GST, and if OEMs would develop CNG scooters and motorcycles, I think India can show a great example to the rest of the world once again.
So, is there a CNG bike or on the cards, Mr. Bajaj?
I can tell you this, there is no CNG scooter on the cards. We are focused just in the niche area of the EV scooter. But of course, as a motorcycle maker, we are always looking at all such technologies. That's the diplomatic answer I must give you at this time. In the 125cc and above space, as I said, we are already doing well. We hope to do better with all the initiatives we discussed. But the 100cc has been very elusive. And who knows, maybe a CNG Bajaj motorcycle that halves people's running costs would be the answer with a little help from the government.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bajaj, for joining us, giving us an outlook on alternate fuels. You give us a hint that there could be a CNG bike in the 100cc segment coming in from Bajaj Auto, the EV ramp-up plans as well. Thanks once again for being with us here on CNBC TV 18.
Thank you, Parikshit. Felt like a board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.